This is definitely not Black Hammer. This is most certainly not Fatebringer. And this is nowhere near being a Gjallarhorn. But this is my Titan Fun PvE build that tries to replicate a D1 Titan from year one the best I can. So, let's get right into the build. Once again, these first couple builds, I'm doing one a week. We did our Voidwalker Warlock last week. I'll leave that video down below. Highly suggest checking it out. And next week, we're going to be doing a Hunter PvE build. These three builds that we're going to be doing are mostly for fun activities that are not super stressful or super challenging. So we're talking Menagerie, Vanguard Strikes, The Reckoning, or the Vex Offensive, things like that. Places where you're not going to bring your meta PvE stuff like the raid or the dungeon. I'm going to wait to make those videos afterwards so that I can get a few more raid mods, for example, and so I can see the actual dungeon and try and determine what the best possible build is for survivability. So today we're going over my Titan Fun PvE build, and I tried to replicate this off a D1 Titan the best I can, so let's get into it. First thing we're starting out with is a long shadow. Any kinetic sniper rifle will work. The idea behind this one specifically is to resemble something of a Black Hammer. And Black Hammer, if you don't remember, just kept regenning ammo. Today we're not regenning ammo, but we're trying to have as much uptime on our sniper as possible. So we have triple tap to add more rounds to the magazine. We have backup mag to add a round to the magazine. Then we have rapid hit and flared magwell. That way we can reload as fast as possible on top of our reload speed masterwork. Really, overall, a really solid sniper rifle. You can get this random rolled from Zavala by turning in Vanguard tokens. However, you can also get another sniper rifle like Tranquility with field prep firing line to be even more destructive and more powerful than the current sniper. However, this one's really good, and it 100% resembles that of kind of a Black Hammer. The next gun we're going into is Nation of Beasts, which you can get this specific curated role from killing Morgith in the Last Wish raid. It's a random drop from Morgith. I got mine after like 20-something runs. Many people have gotten theirs a lot quicker. This specifically comes with Dragonfly Outlaw, which resembles, obviously, the Fatebringer from Destiny 1. We have our Dragonfly Spec to increase the damage of Dragonfly even more. And I think if Recluse was out of the meta and nerfed in the future, this gun would make its way back into a meta pick, because recently with multi-kill clip and rampage nerfs being so significant, Dragonfly has become a very decent perk, and I would highly suggest trying out this hand cannon just in general, but overall it's really cool. It resembles the Fatebringer. I had to put it in the build. Lastly, obviously Deathbringer isn't Gjallarhorn. It doesn't do the same boss damage. It doesn't do the same crazy ad clearing that Gjallarhorn did, but what it does bring is a crazy fun factor in Dark Deliverance. Fires remotely detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on enemies, and then Dark Descent. The longer the void orbs fall, the more powerful the detonation becomes. This rocket launcher is extremely fun. One way you can use it is if you go into Gambit Prime and you invade while the other team is doing damage to the boss in that pool, and you shoot one of these at them. It'll hit the ground right next to them, blow up, and then kill all of them, hopefully, in the actual pool. Really fun overall rocket launcher, and overall just the best thing we have in terms of looks and the way it feels to something like Gjallarhorn. So that's the guns for the build. The next thing we're getting into is the subclass, and obviously the only way to play a Titan back in Destiny 1 Year 1 was with Ward of Dawn, which is the dome that gives you 35% weapon damage in Weapons of Light with the new buff. Defense Strike grants overshields to you and your nearby allies, and regens health, as well as when you have the overshield, you get more melee damage and more reload speed. Overall, just a really good support subclass. We're using Magnet Grenade because later on we're going to be using a perk mod that works really well with Magnet Grenade. Rally Barricade to increase our reload speed, and Strafe Lift because that's the best jump. Now, in terms of getting into the mods, this is where the build really shines. Because currently, we don't really have a lot going on. We kind of have a build that's replicating weapons from D1, as well as replicating a subclass from D1. So, we're using a solar helmet that's very particular for a reason. We're using rocket launcher ammo finder. Basically, this increases your chance of finding heavy ammo while you have a rocket launcher equipped, and the primary reason you're using this is because it drops more heavy ammo for your Deathbringer, so you can fire your Deathbringer as much as you want, kind of like when you were firing your Gjallarhorn whenever you wanted to. Basically, the way you'll know if rocket launcher ammo finder is working is when a heavy brick spawns. If it's a natural heavy brick that was meant to be there no matter what, it won't glow. But if you have a heavy ammo brick that spawns and it glows a purple tint to it, that means you know that that brick came because you were using rocket launcher ammo finder. Overall, really good. We're trying to, the idea of this build is to spam Deathbringer as much as possible for the fun, and that's what we're going to do. So we have a discipline mod to increase that magnet grenade. That magnet grenade is really important, so that's why we're using it. We have a few energy slots open that we can add a targeting perk for our hand cannon, or we can add a raid or nightmare mod if we're bringing this build into like a nightmare activity. I won't think this build is particularly great for things like raids or the dungeon. However, I do think this build works really well for basic PvE content, like low-level nightmares, low-level nightfalls, strikes, things like that. Gambit Prime 2. Next, we're going with Solar Gauntlets. We max these out almost to the last two charges, so there's not a whole lot you're going to get out of these other than what we currently have. We have a Discipline mod to upgrade our regen on our Magnet Grenade, really important. We have Enhanced Hand Cannon Loader that comes specifically from this year's season's artifact, so if you were using this build outside of that season, you wouldn't have access to this because hand cannons fall under the Void affinity. You're going to have to go with a more basic reload perk. For example, Light Arms Reloader. But that's really expensive, so you're going to miss out on either your Discipline or the important perk, Rocket Launcher Loader, which is the whole reason we're using Solar Gloves. It basically makes it so we can reload our rocket launcher faster. Again, our sniper rifle alone, in the way it's perks rolled, it has a really good uptime, really short reload speeds. So we're trying to increase our reload speeds on our hand cannon and our rocket launcher so that we don't have to spend any time reloading at all. Next are the gloves, or is the chest plate, sorry. We're going with another solar chest plate, and we're using 7 energy in this build. So we're using 6 of our energy and we have 7 slots. But if you maxed out, you could add something like a recovery mod or a discipline mod as well if you were to max out your chest plate. Just keep that in mind. You can make the discipline go even higher than it currently is. We're rocking double rocket launcher reserves. The reason particularly for double rocket launcher reserves is that now we'll go from 6 rockets to 8 rockets, which is really awesome. 7 in reserve and then 1 in the rocket. It's really good. Really pairs well with the other perks we're using with the ammo finder and the perk on our legs, which we can get into right now. Once again, we're using solar legs, and we're going with Rocket Launcher Scavenger. Rocket Launcher Scavenger is crucial to this build. Combining ammo finder and scavenger perks are significantly important and overall really valuable. The reason they're really valuable is because remember how we talked about the 2 types of bricks, ones that glow and the ones that don't? Without the scavenger mod, the glowing bricks only give you 1 rocket back, and the non-glowing bricks only give you 2 rockets back. So you don't get a whole lot out of your ammo finders or your reserves when you're not using scavenger, because you're gonna pick up less rockets, and therefore your reserves aren't gonna be always capped out at the max, and every brick you find from your ammo finder perk isn't going to be very useful to you. So the scavenger comes in because this gives you bonus ammo when you pick up those bricks. When you pick up a glowing brick, now you get 3 rockets, and when you pick up a regular brick, you get 4 rockets. That's pretty nuts overall. It just means you're going to top out on your Deathbringer as much as possible. And again, the whole idea of this build is Deathbringer all the ads and the PvE ads. use your Nation of Beasts when you don't have rocket launcher ammo, and use your sniper as a boss kind of DPS weapon, as well as your rocket launcher. Again, we're using a discipline mod. This one, we don't have a whole lot of energy we're using. We're only using 6 slots, so we have 4 available to us where we can add something like traction or possibly a raid perk or something like that. So keep that in mind when you're filling out this build and possibly maxing out the stat rolls on your gear. Finally, for our mark, we're going with a void mark this time so that we can get remote connection. In the current meta, heavy lifting doesn't exist, which is bonus super energy off of heavy kills, and the only way to access those are using helmet armor pieces from the year 2 Forsaken year, because some of those dropped with heavy lifting, but that means we won't use our rocket launcher ammo finder perk, and that perk is crucial to this build because we need to pick up as many rockets as possible. So we have no access to heavy lifting, which is fine. So we're going to use remote connection so that we can get more super energy off of our sniper rifle kills, because right now we don't really have a great way of generating super. So this is just going to be a little bonus to our super energy. And finally, the reason we've had all of these discipline mods is because we're going with Oppressive Darkness, probably the best mod currently from the artifact. Causing damage with a void grenade adds a weakening effect to enemies. This is really great on magnet grenades because you can stick the target you're trying to weaken. It works really well in the final boss fight from Garden of Salvation. This works extremely well. You can stick the boss in the final fight before he flies up into the air, or even when he flies up into the air, causing a weakening effect and letting your teammates and you unload bullets into the boss and doing a whole lot of DPS. It just adds to the DPS factor of this build, which is a little lacking because we're kind of relying on Long Shadow as one of our high DPS weapons, as well as Deathbringer, which while is a fun gun, doesn't provide consistent damage over time or consistent DPS every time you shoot it. But yeah, that's the build. We have Tier 7 Discipline, which means that our cooldown is at 45 seconds, so we're getting our Magnet Grenade an awful lot. We have a lot of survivability within our melee and our Ward of Dawn. The only way I would say this build can get significantly better, and I currently don't have access to making it significantly better, is by getting a Solar Helmasing 14. So if you go to your collections, you can see that we're obviously missing an exotic on our Titan, which is really frustrating and upsetting. But the only one that really works well with this build is Helmasing 14, which currently in the collection system only rolls Void, and there's no consistent way for me to get a Solar Helmasing 14. The best ways you can get it right now are going to Zur and spending your Faded Engram while you're on your Titan. The problem with that is if you're missing any exotic weapon or any other exotic armor piece on your Titan, it's going to prioritize giving you those over giving you a possible chance at a random rolled exotic you already have, and therefore you have way less likely of a chance to ever get Helmasing 14 through Zur until that's fixed. Apparently, the exotics Zur is selling are bugged right now, and he's selling the collection rolls, which he's not supposed to be doing. So this could be really good in the future. That could be a good way of getting Helmasing 14. The other way is obviously going into Nightfalls, particularly the 950s and the 980, the Master and the 950, which I think is Legend, because those have a pretty decent chance of dropping exotics. In fact, the 980 is a common drop. However, I know a lot of you probably aren't at that point in being able to do those activities consistently. I know for a fact I'm not. So it might be a long ways down the line before you're able to get the Helmasing 14 you want. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the build. I hope you guys test this thing out. I hope you guys go and check out the Voidwalker build from last week. And then next week we're going to be doing a Hunter build, which I think I have an idea for what we're going to do. We've been focusing a lot of our builds around discipline stats. So we're going to focus next week's build around a different stat here within our Hunter. So hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys look forward to that. Again, once we get these 3 basic fun builds out of the way, I'm going to delve deep into the endgame PvE, trying to create more survivability-based builds for the raid and for the dungeon to make it easier. However, currently the dungeon's not even out, so I can't play that to figure out what mods are really useful there. And for the raid, I don't have all the pieces I want, especially raid armor pieces. So hopefully you guys go and farm those and get to create your own builds. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in another video. See ya!